Okay, good evening, everyone. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Glad you guys are all here. What can we go over today? Let's thank everybody that does service in this group. First of all, we forget them all the time. Andy, our chairman, Ed in the back room. And we can thank our speaker before they even get up here because they come a long distance at their own time and expense. Thank you. We got the world's best chairperson today, all the way from Louisiana. She was on her way to Canada, but they wouldn't let her in, so she wound up in Pennsylvania. Let's welcome Kara.
We have a lot of fun. As Ron says, if we're not laughing and cutting up, we're not having fun in this program. But anyway, hello everybody, welcome. My name is Kara, and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, PA. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new and from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first names?
I'm Wendy, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Sean. Welcome, Tom. Hey, welcome, Ian. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad y'all are here. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any AA announcements? Our sister group is a Big Book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street. Salem's UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is at 6:15 p.m. Please come join us. It's an amazing big book. And we also have another sister meeting here on Monday. It's a step meeting at 6 p.m. It's another wonderful group. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who can afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. All CDs are available free of charge. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA and our Facebook groups, please subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. Now I would like to introduce a good friend of mine. He's going to come up. His name is Brian and read just for today, Prayer of Recovery. Let's give Brian a warm welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is just for today, a prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, I've asked Jack to come up here. He's going to read the AA preamble.
My name is Jack. I'm an alcoholic. This is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Andrew to come up and read the 12 steps.
My name is Andrew and I'm an alcoholic. And these are the 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and a fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
The 7th tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events and workshops, and etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's all give Lindsay a warm welcome. She came over from New Jersey. Woo-hoo!
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm an alcoholic. And I am so grateful to be here. What an amazing and radiant group. I love it. I wish I lived I might have to move to Doylestown. And you know, it's no coincidence that it's called Conscious Contact, which is my late sponsor, a man who sponsored me named Tattoo Larry, who passed away a few years ago. His home group's name was Conscious Contact, and he has helped thousands of alcoholics and carried an extremely strong message of the whole program of recovery. And I'm so grateful that I was able to work with him in the few years before he passed away. And so it's really significant to me that the group is named Conscious Contact and allows me to know that I'm exactly where that I need to be. And God is always on time. And I'm really, really grateful and I'm honored to be here. So thank you so much to the group for inviting me down. And my sobriety date is February 2nd, 2006. My home group is called Bergen County Young People's Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Tuesday nights at 720 Summit Avenue in Hackensack, New Jersey. And that's in northern New Jersey, Bergen County. So if you know any alcoholics over there, by all means, send them over. And we have an open speaker beginners meeting and a big book study discussion meeting. And that's been my home group for the greater part of 17 years. And I can't even believe that I've been committed to something for that long. It's to no credit of mine, and all glory to God and to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous actually working. Because I'm not the kind of person that naturally knows how to stick and stay in anything longer than a 2-year period. I'm pretty good for 2 years, but after that, my ego runs out of steam and runs out of entertainment and gives up. So anything I do beyond 2 years has literally nothing to do with me, right? To be able to serve a group with integrity and preservation to this message of hope is just beyond me. And the only thing I can say is, even though I'm now the old timer of the young people's group that I'm in, right? Because I went there when I was 23 years old, and 17 years later, I'm not that young anymore. And, you know, that my home group carried the message that touched my heart, you know, and it wrapped its hand around my heart and has never let go of it, which is that alcoholism is what I suffer from when I'm not drinking. And that is what got me. It hit my spirit. It broke the icy intellectual mountain, which is my alcoholic mind. And if you're an alcoholic like me, you know that not every conversation can break through your mind. Good advice, good suggestions, happy people, right? There's a lot of times that, a lot of things that don't break through my difficult, icy, intellectual, self-willed alcoholic mind. But the message carried by another recovered alcoholic, right, who has a relationship and who has conscious contact with this thing that we call God, it goes beyond my mind and directly into my heart and directly into my spirit. And that's what happened to me the first time that I walked into my home group, having no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous was about. I certainly didn't know that I was an alcoholic. I just kind of went along with it because I didn't know what else to do, which was the best thing that could have ever happened to somebody like me. But I had no idea. But there was something that I felt, right? I always say the weight of the truth is greater than the weight of the lie. So even when the truth hurts, it still gives me rest and satisfaction that rationalization and thinking and me can't do. And so thank God for the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, that someone like me, who has the most impossible kind of mind, can't be penetrated by other human beings. I don't care about rules, I don't care about consequences, but somehow this program allowed me to have a psychic change, right? And allows me to live a spiritual experience, so long as I do a few basic, simple things that today are easy for me to do. They're a pleasure to do. I'm grateful to do them. I love doing these things, right? And I have no idea except for a God beyond my understanding, you know. So to give you a little bit about what it was like for me with this thing called alcoholism, right? This disease that I have that centers in my mind. I was adopted when I was born. And I found out at an early age that I was born addicted to drugs, that my birth mother was a drug addict. And one of my earliest memories was that I was adopted. And what's weird about that is that I don't remember ever having a reaction to it at all. Which to me seemed a little, I would always ask questions and want to know stuff. And I remember asking these questions and not really feeling anything about it. And people would often apologize that I was adopted, because I guess I would tell them, you know, and they would apologize to me, and I really didn't understand why they were apologizing, because I didn't feel bad about it, and to me it was just a mystery. And what I did know was that at a very early age, my other earliest memory is that when I was in kindergarten and I went to a church school, and you know, it was the same community. I went to school with, my godfather was the pastor, my godfather was the principal of the school, my godmother was a teacher of first grade, and you know, and my close friends and family, we all went to the same church, a lot of the kids went to the same school, so you know, we had this small community. And I just remember completely feeling like I do not feel how all of the rest of you look. And there's a million experiences in my life where that's the truth for me. I don't feel how everyone else looks. And I remember as a little girl looking around and seeing like this sense of trust that other children had when they looked at their parents, when they ran with open arms to their parents. I don't know if I did or didn't do that. I know I didn't feel like that. that sense of trust when the teacher told us what to do and taught us things. I was not having an experience of trust at all. I was having an experience of, why do I feel so different? And what am I supposed to be doing here? And this pressure and this urge to like somehow figure all of that out, or put on the best performance I could to try to look like how everybody else I thought how they felt. You know, and this conflict of that, and this sense of like complete strife over it, it really stressed me out as a 5-year-old little girl in kindergarten. And many people have that experience that are not alcoholic, right? The thing about me as an alcoholic with an alcoholic mind is what I did with those feelings and with that experience is that I immediately made a decision, right, that I was going to figure it all out. That I was going to figure out, what is that feeling? How am I fixing it? How am I going to control my environment to make sure that it feels the way that I need it to feel in order for me to continue to want to be here? Right? So this mental obsession that I took on at a very early age was to constantly control, having the outside make the inside feel better. Because I know that I already don't feel good. I know that I'm already restless, irritable, and discontent, even though I don't have those words. And I'm certainly not going to let anybody know what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. Asking for help was never a concept that it literally never once entered my mind until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, that this is an option for being a human, right? To ask for help. It doesn't come into my mind. What comes into my mind is, it's my fault, something's wrong with me, I need to get busy figuring this thing out. But I don't really feel good enough to figure it out, so I need to find something to distract me or make me feel better so that I can get back to figuring out this business of being human and kind of look enough like everybody else that I like get the check marks and I'm good at life. You know, so needless to say, I made a lot of really bad choices based on self. And this is like my backdrop of alcoholism. Like that was what came with me all the way to the end. And if I'm not in fit spiritual condition, that's the first thing I'll pick up, is that delusion, right? Because if this disease that centers in my mind, apart from God, runs by obsessions, illusions, and delusions. Right? So my mind just misleads itself. I misperceive what I'm seeing. I form ideas and conclusions, and then I obsessively try to create the world around me. And it's also that I can feel a certain way. So off I went, 5 years old. From 5 to 12, I caused, before my first drink, I caused a lot of trouble, right? In school, in my household, in my relationships. And I'm not even 12 years old yet. I did not listen to any rules. I didn't listen to any authority because, again, it's not under my control. And when people told me what to do, I had 1,000 questions. But why? Explain it to me, right? So what I now know is this agnostic temperament that is just a natural part of being an alcoholic, this need to doubt and this need to question and this demand for an explanation before I agree to everything, right? That's all part of my agnosticism from what I understand. And even as a little girl, I was running around doing that, asking why, demanding answers. We're making a single file line. Why do I need to get on the single file line if I could just walk outside by myself? I'm just going to walk outside. I'm going to do it my way. Well, I don't need to wait on your line. And that made perfect sense to me. And that's how I went through, oh, this red light? I don't agree that this red light needs to be here. I'm just going to go right through it. Or why do I need to pay taxes? I'm gonna claim 9, even though I'm, I don't know, 18, 19, and I have no children, and I don't pay a mortgage. And I don't need to pay taxes. Like, I just made my own rules up. And I didn't think a thing about it. I had the opposite of conscious contact, right? Because there was no sense of right or wrong for something bad is going to happen to me if I make a bad decision. My only conscience was, how am I getting ease and comfort? And that's what I was driven by. Driven to find something from the outside that makes the inside feel better. You know, and for whether that's my fantasy thinking or my friends and, you know, all these things that I collect to stage who I think I need to be in order for the world to glorify me enough for me to finally feel like I'm somebody or that I'm loved or I'm acceptable, right? Somebody with all that going on definitely needs a drink at the end of the day. I couldn't wait to get my hands on a drink. I couldn't wait. And I remember when the DARE officers would come in to 5th grade and talk about, alcohol and fetal alcohol syndrome and drunk driving and all this stuff. And I knew my father was an alcoholic, and I knew I was born to a drug-addicted mother. None of that seemed to stop me, because all I could hear was, that's going to give me the exhilaration that I'm looking for. I can't wait to do that. I was truly, and we all say it often, white-knuckling until the age of 12 when I could finally have my first drink. And that's what it was like. Every day was daunting until I finally was able to drink alcohol the way that I wanted to. And for me, that seemed like every weekend would be a reasonable way of doing that. And as long as I don't drink every day, and as long as I check the boxes and look a certain way and, go to school at least 4 out of 5 days of the week, like I'm getting by, right? And that's always the attitude. Find a way to just somehow get by. But I never did anything 100%. I never honored or had integrity to a system or to rules or to life, right? I certainly didn't accept life on life's terms. And I'm like, as long as I can drink, I can bear what goes on in the week. And this is me at 12, right? Kicked out of school, kicked out of my house, removed from my house, from, protective services, in group homes, in JDC. None of this bothered me. Right? Because as soon as they weren't looking, I continued to do what I wanted to do. There was absolutely no conviction on the inside that alcohol would make me worse at being me. It was the world making me worse at being me. It was what these people want from me, and I'm not going to do what they want me to do. And that whole thing of like, it's me against the world and I'm so alone. But I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't have a conscience at all, let alone contact, right? And so I drank, and I got in trouble, and I racked up all these consequences, and I grew up basically in the system from the time I was 12 to the time I was 18. I was on probation, and I was in and out of group homes, and had to go to the IOP and the outpatients and stuff like that, and got all this education that I don't even remember. I don't remember, because to me it definitely didn't apply. How could I be an alcoholic at 14 years old? Nobody sat me down and broke down until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. No one was asking, Lindsay, what is the effect that alcohol has on your body once you put it in you? That was never what I was brought to think about. Like, wait, what does happen to me? And what happens to her, my friend who can just have one drink? She always just has one drink all night long. And I think it's because she's a goody-goody. And I think it's because she's scary. And I think it's because she's just not as bold and courageous and, mature as me. But I never stopped to look at, well, what is actually happening just in my body when I put alcohol in my system? And it's inarguable every single time that I immediately become chronically obsessed with making sure that I keep that feeling of ease and comfort, because I have a fear that it's going to run out. Like, oh my God, I finally feel good. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. I'll go to the next drink, go to the bar again, go back, drink her drink, right? And that chase for the perfect ease and comfort is on me. And I'm not realizing that I need to drink a second, a third, a fourth, fall down, fight this one, get arrested, get scooped away. None of this mattered to me, because I decide what an alcoholic is, and I decide that I don't fit that classification. Because by 14, I'm already my own God. I only worship the religion of Lindsay. Anything that floats through this mind, I take it as absolute law. My disease has convinced me that I'm definitely smarter than the people around me, and I just don't have to listen to them because I can't trust them. Right? It all goes back to the beginning. It all goes back to that background of my alcoholism, that I'm not going to trust the world around me, I'm going to control it. And all these decisions that I made based on myself, based on the way that I felt. So with that, I didn't take any single consequence that came with alcohol as a problem with alcohol. So I kept doing it. On and on I drank, on and on it went. Everything that comes along with it, I just took, and I didn't think a thing about it. And, and for me, it's so important to talk about the untreated alcoholism along with the way that I drink alcoholically, because there were so many times where I had to have some separation from alcohol. And it's during those times that I can see how much I'm the problem, right? If it wasn't for me being able to see that I'm the problem, I am what I suffer from when I'm not drinking. This thinking, this chronic ache of discontentment that just nothing satisfied, right? If I couldn't see that, I don't know if I would have ever been willing to even acknowledge what alcohol does to me. I wouldn't have cared to. It's that I could not stand myself sober after, after some time of continuously doing life, checking the boxes, get the job, be good at the job. Oh, find a husband, get married, right? By the time I'm 19, first boyfriend I ever had, let's get married, because why wouldn't I get married to you? That seems to be the most checkbox thing to do. Do I love you? I don't know. We fist fight every weekend when we get drunk, but I love you the next morning, so I guess that's love, right? And why not? Because if I don't get married to you, then I'll look bad for wasting years being with you. Even though I'm 19, I don't know what kind of years I thought I was wasting, but I believe that. And if I don't get married to you, you're devaluing my worth as a woman, because then I'm going to look unlovable and like somebody can't keep me. These delusional rules that I make up as I go along. And I keep myself, right? My disease keeps me held hostage to insane choices that I think have some gold at the end of the rainbow, which is just simply not the case. It's just another bottle of alcohol at the end of my rainbow. And, I do all this stuff, right? And I make it look like I'm doing life the way that I think life is supposed to be done. Have a job, graduate school, get married. I move overseas to Germany. My husband at that time was in the service, my ex-husband. And, over here, I always had 1,000 distractions because, again, my alcoholism is really cunning and is really clever, and it knows exactly how to get me focused on 10,000 other obsessions other than what alcohol is doing to my body when I put it in me, and other than what I am doing to me and everyone else when alcohol's not in me, right? So I move over to Germany. I don't have my friends there. I don't have my car and my life and my ego and this persona that I've built up to distract me from what's going on inside of me. I wake up in another country. They don't speak English. I don't speak German. We're not on a military base, so I really don't have any contact with other military wives, other civilians. It's kind of far away. And I'm just stuck with me inside of four walls. And it turns out, thank God for my experience there, because there was no other substances to distract the way that I drank. I drank every time that I picked up alcohol like it was the last time I would ever be allowed to drink. And I didn't even cease. I no longer tried to give myself any form of delusional control, because the moments without alcohol had become so unbearable because I didn't have any other way to distract myself. And now I'm married. I'm in this relationship that I don't belong in, that is not based on love, honesty, consideration, principles of God that I understand today, right? It was based completely on my pride, run by 100 forms of fear, right? And so I'm as restless as I could possibly get without killing myself. Alcohol was the only thing that kept me alive during that time. It's a miracle that I don't even know. I really truly believe that God needed to put me there, that I needed to see, what does alcohol do to your body, Lindsay? What does it do to me when I have the first one? And that no matter what's going on, I cannot put it down after I pick it up. Right? And it doesn't matter if I have a car, if I have a license, if I have a husband, if I have clothes in the closet or friends over the phone. Like, the outside stuff or whatever I think I have has absolutely no bearing or effect on what alcohol does to my body once it's in me. No matter what the consequence, I cannot stop drinking once I start. And 3 years of that, and a couple of more fist fights with that husband. And, I come back over here, and long story short, I eventually, right, because without the alcohol, Okay, if it's not the alcohol, then I'll go to a psychiatrist and I'll have them. How else can we manage this restlessness that I suffer from? This constant void, this inability to accept myself, to love myself, hate my life. Nothing makes me feel good. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm secretly extremely hopeless, although I will never tell anybody that, and I won't admit it to myself. So I'll just suffer. Let me go check out the psychiatrist and see what they could prescribe me so that I don't have to drink during the weekday. And thinking that that's the answer. Let me take some other type of pharmaceutical. And, you know, on it goes. And that just opens the door to, oh, well, there's other ways to drink without drinking. There's other ways to manage my alcoholism or to give myself a sense of ease and comfort without technically picking up the alcohol until Friday. So I'm just going to do all of that too. And as long as I'm going to school and as long as I'm getting straight A's and I, you know, did all this stuff, my husband was in Iraq at the time, and I'm thinking I'm the best wife ever because, like, I wouldn't cheat on him, right? And I'm like, you know how easily I could cheat on you and I don't? Like, I'm thinking I deserve an award. And then that award should be, you should be okay with the fact that I drink all of your paycheck and I use all other drugs but I'm going to school and I don't cheat on you. So I'm like the best wife ever. What's your problem? Why do you care? You are supposed to support me. I'm a dependent of the army, right? It's your responsibility. And whatever, long story short, finally my outsides catch up with my insides because the inside was black and mallet for as long as I could ever remember. You know, but the outside I kept up for a while until eventually it just all started to crumble around me. And I could not go for 24 hours without consuming something for my alcoholism, right? And you know, the husband eventually wanted nothing to do with me. I couldn't return to Germany. My mother had moved across the country. I couldn't go there. My friends, you know, all the bridges that I thought I had, that I did have, I completely burned to the ground. All of these people that love me, you know, put enough alcohol in me, I'm fighting every single one of them. In a nurse uniform, by the way. And calling myself a medical assistant or a healer, right? I'm in a nurse outfit trying to fight my family. That's really cute. And you know, eventually I couldn't leave a 4-block radius at, you know, 23, or by 23 years old, I have flown back and forth from Germany thinking that if I just get away from the people that I drink with and I get away from, you know, this area, right? New Jersey's the problem. And I'll just, you know, my husband doesn't know. He doesn't know what I'm really doing here. So, you know, I'll just go back to my life over there. And that was completely impossible. And I couldn't go a day. I could not go one day, I couldn't go an hour without consuming anything, right? Anything at that point. Half the things I would take would be medications for other people's epilepsy. Like just anything, which I really could have gotten very hurt. And of course, always the drinking, you know. So by the time I had that moment of desperation and that moment of clarity, you know, I like to say, and I'm going to tell this story, which I don't always, but I have a little bit of time to tell it, and I think it's really profound and powerful, and it certainly is for me. I couldn't leave a 4-block radius in the dead of winter. I don't know how many months have went by that I was in the same clothes. All my stuff was in another country. I had no one's house to go to shower, to stop, to take a break. And I just kept telling myself, if I just put on more makeup, right? Just put more makeup on and go work on your resume. And I'd be walking around the streets in an inner city neighborhood by where I live, right? Just like clutching this resume, and I couldn't accomplish anything. I looked like a literal clown. I had green eyeshadow on, right? Just as a mess as they could come. You know, and all of the pain that I suffer is not what allowed me to have that moment of clarity, right? Or the charges, the bank that I robbed, the husband that won't talk to me, right? But I was walking across the street and I was vomiting in broad daylight, and this little child that had to be, I don't know, 4, saw me. And that was the moment where, you know, and the purity of the eyes of a child, you know, for me it's like a window to God. Because I didn't expect anything to happen to me by looking at this show, but the purity hit my soul. And somehow I was able to download a moment of conscious contact, a moment of conscience that, wow, that child, for the rest of that child's life, I am just a drunk in the street. And I am, you know, I'm carrying a stereotype that I'm harming the child simply by being here, being the way that I am. And I'm not all of my potential. I'm not the jobs that I had. I'm not the husband that I had, right? I'm an alcoholic. I am a drug addict. I am wandering the street, and I have absolutely no way to stop what I'm doing, and nobody is coming to save me. And looking at that child, I could finally feel the weight, the morbid guilt of how much I hated myself, how much this is not who I'm supposed to be. I don't believe this is why I was put on the planet, to die at 23 years old, or to have to live like that for another 40 years or however long I would have managed to be here. And just this, all of this truth just downloaded into me. And it's like it took my breath away. And I could no longer lie to myself from that moment forward and tell myself that I'm not an alcoholic or that I'm not the problem. From that moment forward, I was crystal clear, like, oh my God, I'm literally out of my mind. I'm out of my mind, and I can't be around me for one more second. But I didn't know. I didn't know what help was. I never asked for help one day in my life. I certainly didn't know what Alcoholics Anonymous was. I definitely didn't know that Alcoholics Anonymous was a program designed for me to have a spiritual experience to overcome drinking. That I could live a life completely sober, but also completely happy and contented. I had no clue. So I'm not running around asking anybody, take me to an AA meeting. I don't even know what I think it is, but I don't think it's for me. And so I white knuckle it for a little while longer, as long as I could, desperately wanting to die, right? And the first honest thing I think I ever said in my life was when I looked up and I started praying to this God that I had renounced when I was a child to please kill me and to please take me off the planet. You know, and there's been many times in my sobriety where it's not about the words that I'm saying, but the quality of my honesty has everything to do with my relationship with God. You know, sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's really ugly, but God is always waiting for me on the other side of my honesty. I got to let it out. And that was my honesty at the time. That was the best prayer I ever said. God, please take me off the planet. Please kill me. And I meant it. And what God did, you know, finally, I'm not in control of my life anymore. Because from that moment, a set of coincidences happened. You know, and this house that I would always party at and go to, all of a sudden I couldn't go there anymore. I went there, you know, it was just a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And I wound up in the hospital for the last time. You know, and I went in and out of that hospital against medical advice because I'm still fighting to the very end that I'm not drunk and nothing's wrong with me. But inside, my heart and my spirit is broken. And I finally walked back into that hospital because it was the dead of winter and it was 0 degrees outside and I had urinated on myself and I'm freezing and I just want to go to sleep, right? I had no idea I would wake up on my knees praying for God to please help me. And it's really just as simple as Bill's story. My problems were piled upon me so high, I had no idea. It was just beyond me, right? Beyond me. I was completely overwhelmed, and I absolutely believed that I was possessed by the devil, right? Because I'm the problem. All these ideas, and all this false arrogance, and all of these abilities that I thought so highly of myself for, are the very things that turn like a boomerang and cut me to ribbons, right? All this stuff in me that I just worship. I think I know everything. And all it ever did was bring me to pain after pain and brokenness, broken heart, losing myself, losing my values, absolutely not living into the potential that I believe my Creator had for me, right? And that's the pain, that I don't have the power. I don't have the power to solve that dilemma. What else can I do but just earnestly and eagerly pray on my knees, God, please. I don't even have a fancy prayer. It's just, God, please. And God did. And God absolutely did. And God entered my life that day and completely washed away the old one and gave me an entirely new life. And I didn't know that at the time. But that's exactly what happened. That is the fact of my existence. Because I come from a bloodline of drug addicts and alcoholics. There's absolutely nothing logical that should suggest that I should get to live a happy, joyous, and free life with a clean record and a clean driving record and a baby and a husband in recovery and all these beautiful gifts that I have today, right? There's nothing logical about any of it. I prayed that prayer and somehow my life was taken over for me and more coincidences fell into place and I ended up, from that hospital clutching a meeting list, because I don't know how to get to a meeting, in a rooming house where the girl that opened the door in the rooming house was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and she was a member of my home group. And she immediately just started reading the big book to me. And she took me to meetings every day for 90 days and she told me what a home group was and she told me what a sponsor was. And she had 4 months at the time, but to me that was all the time in the world because I couldn't imagine getting through 48 hours. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had the same clothes that I had urinated in. And the same socks I had on for 3 months. I had nowhere else to go. Nobody was saving me, right? And I was told, and I am so grateful for the things that I was told, or perhaps I was told a lot of things. I am so grateful for the things that I heard, right? I heard that when you truly put your recovery first, everything completely falls into place, like magic. That's what that meant to me. That meant to me, I'm like, you mean all I need to do is focus on making a meeting every day, talking to strangers, calling women, right, and getting this thing called a sponsor and doing this thing called step work, and my life's magically going to fall into place? People told me yes. Yes. Burn the idea into every man, woman, and child, or I'm misquoting it. The consciousness of God is the most important thing, right, that I can get well regardless of anyone. Husband, no husband, family, no family, right? God has to be the center focus of my life. And for me, God is hand in hand with my recovery. I can love God all day long, which I do, but that does not exempt me from needing to practice 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis because I'm also an alcoholic that has a delusional mind that lies to me and wants me to drink up my ego and drink up myself and my fancy ideas and everything I don't want to say. Right? So I need to work a program for me to have this relationship with God and for me to have this conscious contact with God. Because I don't know about anybody else, I've always wanted an intuitive sixth sense. I've always wanted a conscience that tells me right from wrong. What am I doing in any one given situation? How do I everything baffled me. Everything in life, right? And I got that sponsor. And my sponsor was as far different as I could, from me as a person could be. But she had that thing, right? When she would tell me the truth, I could feel it. I didn't think about it. I didn't analyze it. I could feel the weight of the truth being greater than the weight of the lies in my head, right? And it gave me peace. Even if whether the road was hard, was it hard for me to imagine how am I gotta wait to get to the other side of a 12th step before I feel better, right? I'm an alcoholic, I wanna feel better right away, right? But luckily and gratefully, coming to meetings did make me feel better right away. It did, right? The sense of unity and the power. I am very crystal clear that there is absolutely a power inside of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been able to go to all sorts of meetings. They may be very different from my home group. There could be 3 people, there could be 300 people. There is this power that I feel when I walk into a meeting that gives my soul that peace of rest that it's always been looking for. That unity that I didn't have around a kitchen table, I managed to have around a room of alcoholics. And I'm so grateful for it. And there's been so many days in the last 17 years where a simple meeting and an honest share are my salvation. Right? And there's other times in 17 years where I have to revisit the first step, the second step, my relationship with God, all of my resentments, have another 5th step. What amends didn't I make? Right? There's been different seasons in my sobriety, right? And they all come with their own trials. And I'm always toe-to-toe or face-to-face with recognizing where I'm powerless and how I need and want God. How am I bringing God into my life? How am I practicing this program so that God can continue to do for me what I can never do for myself? I could never live a successful life by myself. There's no way. I would be in jail or I'd be in a psych ward, you know? And that journey through the 12 steps, right? To be told that there's clear-cut directions for someone like me, that the book is made for someone as hopeless and hard-headed and impossible to deal with as I was, right? I'm very grateful that I didn't have the luxury of going to a rehab, right? I don't have that experience. But God knew, right? Put me right in AA, and it was all willingness. Nobody forced it on me. Nobody told me I was an alcoholic. And I felt it and I heard it for myself, and I wanted, right? I wanted what was on the other side. And I did everything I could. I said, okay, I'll come to meetings looking like the bum that I am. I'll come to meetings having no clothes. Oh, you want me to be the greeter? Okay, I'll be the greeter. There was nothing easy about any of those choices, but it was, I'm going to either put my recovery first or I'm going to just continue to listen to Lindsay. And we already know what happens when I do that. So I'm going to do the hard thing. And you know what I experienced? That people loved me in spite of. Right? That the love here in Alcoholics Anonymous is far greater than all of my little, rules about how life is supposed to go. And, walking to the payphones like I did at that time to call the women in my network and ask them to take me to a meeting, right? Willing to go to any lengths is so much easier inside of this program than willing to go to any lengths to keep up all that my alcoholism wants me to do to feel good. It is so much easier living this way of life, and I have to humble myself. I have to allow other people to know me, right? Being a part of a home group and showing up every week, showing up to the business meetings, right? Going through that fourth step, writing out every single thing that I thought was a resentment at that time, right? And doing the best that I could at that time and having a profound experience. My fourth step, right? The best thing I've ever done in my life. I had nothing, right? I still had nothing. I lived in a different rooming house. Half myself was still in another country. Most people wouldn't talk to me, but I made my meetings and I had my sponsor and I was right in this fourth step like my life depended on it. And at some point between 4 and 9, right, these gates just opened up off my heart. And I just remember finally feeling like in that comfort that I would get in glimpses at a meeting, right? When I would get through moments of identification, or I would get when I would sit down with my sponsor and I would feel understood, right? These little moments of comfort became the constant and permanent reality in my life. And I could not believe that comfort replaced the obsessions of my mind, because there was nothing I could do to get rid of those obsessions. There was nothing I could do to let them go. I was constantly doomed up into that point. And then all of a sudden, here's this relationship with God. And it's something that starts inside of me, right? So it's not about me figuring God out and about me, acting my way, I'm going to read the right book, I'm going to say the right thing, I'm going to say the right prayer. Okay, all those tools are great. But for me, I got to unblock. I got to get rid of what's blocking me. How does my selfishness look? What does it look like, right? What's the blueprint of my alcoholism? How does it show up for me? How does it show up in my head? How does it trick me? What are the 100 forms of fear, delusion, self-seeking, self-pity that Lindsay is driven by? I needed to get to know my disease real well so that I could see it and so that I could surrender it. And and how do I surrender it? I just follow directions. I read it to another alcoholic. I offer it to God. I see these defects. Then I'm praying with sincerity for God to remove them. And I'm also willing to humbly make right all that I've done wrong. And at that point, who do I owe amends to? Who do I owe peace of mind to? Who do I owe money to? Who do I owe honesty to? Who do I owe the dignity of my time, my loyalty, my care, my love? Who do I owe a visit, right? I needed to look at all of that, and by the time I had 5 years sober, I had no idea that I'd ask my mom about my adoptive mother, about my birth family every so often. And I don't know, a couple times through the years, I would ask out of curiosity, like, so who was this birth mother of mine, and where was I born, and then I'd let it go, because again, it was a very disconnected feeling for me, and I didn't think that I would be like a Oprah story, right? I'm okay, how many people actually get to meet their birth family? I'm probably not going to be one of them. So I just kind of let it go. I didn't really think about it much. Because when you don't know something, you don't know that you don't know, and you can't care about what you don't know, right? But by 5 years, right, living this way, having this profound experience, and truly believing, right, I've come to believe in these 12 steps is the only way that I can live my life. And living a life through Alcoholics Anonymous, and having a life through Alcoholics Anonymous. And then eventually, right, all the outside things come in, and I have a nice home, and I have a nice job, and, the most important thing were the relationships and the connections of sobriety that I had, and to love myself, and to love this relationship I have with God. And then 5 years, and the trials, and the ebbs and flows, and 4 or 5 years, my adoptive father, who left, my mother and my father divorced when I was young, and he had remarried and had another family living in my family's, my family home, so we had moved out. And I never really had a strong relationship with this man, and he's also somebody who had his bouts with alcoholism, and, it was just very sick in many different ways. And my reaction to his physical illness, his mental illness, his alcoholism was, I'm just not even going to try. I can't go, I don't want any relationship. And not out of anger, out of the fact that I can't control it. Out of the fact that I would delusionally take it as it's my fault. I felt so bad for him. It's my fault that he's like this. I need to fix it. And it was all way too overwhelming for me. The moral of the story is, when something doesn't feel comfortable, I just don't do it. I run away from it. Right? So I didn't pay any real mind to having a relationship with this man. And here I am, years into sobriety, and he's getting sick, and it's coming. And of course, before it comes into my life physically, it's coming up for me spiritually. It's coming up on my inventory. You got to do, what's going on with your dad? What's this relationship? What are these old pains and these old resentments and these patterns that I see happening in relationships, and these defects, and I don't know where they come from. And it's time for me to examine my relationship with my father. When I began that journey, which has been a whole journey in and of itself. But long story short, the moral of this story is that I had to make that living amends, right? Because there was nothing that I needed to say to my father, because we didn't really have many words. I needed to show up. It was about, it's time for me to live in integrity to these principles and show up for this man no matter what. It doesn't matter whether or not he's the father that was showing up for me, because he wasn't. And it doesn't matter that he has 800 illnesses that I can't do anything about. It doesn't matter how I feel that I want to rip my skin off, because it's all so overwhelming for me when I go to see him. He's a child of God, and this is my assignment, and this is the sobriety, that you show up. This is what you owe amends. This is where I owe amends. And I'm showing up, and I'm showing up. And then on one particular day, I asked, did you happen to know anything about my birth family? And out comes all of the truth, and all of the bits and pieces, that I had an older sister, and she was 2 years older than me, and her name was Susan, and all of this and all of that. And I take all this information, and I go home, and I ask the same mother that I had asked previously in my life. And on this particular day, she decided to finally tell me, yeah, you did have a sister, and that is her name. And she gave me the information that I needed. And I happened to have this computer genius friend in recovery in my home group, and I gave her the information, and she was able to look up my sister's name and number and stuff that day. And had it not been that day, I don't know if I would have found it, because she was changing from Verizon to a different carrier. And all the stars aligned, and we got her on the phone that day. Right? And I couldn't call, I had my friend call, and then me and my sister got on the phone. And in a few short weeks, I'm sitting down with my sister, who was not adopted, right? Who was raised around the drug addiction, the alcoholism, all my aunts and uncles, my birth mother. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I sponsor women that had children like this. And then here on the other side is my aunt, who is the only woman that saw me when I was adopted, and said the Lord's Prayer over me and would pray for me. And then it's just, here the universe returns me to her, right? And she cooked me this beautiful Thanksgiving meal. And out of nowhere, I go from not having the best relationship with one man to having a full-blown family that I didn't even know I wanted, and I certainly never asked for, right? That is the power. Those are the kinds of promises that I'm after in this program, is that God always has so much more in store for me that I could ever even possibly imagine. But I have to do things His way, which means I got to get out of the way. There is no, oh, I want, and oh, I feel, and me, right? There's none of that. There's order. There's, where am I powerless? Where am I in self? Where am I selfish, manipulative, self-seeking, fear-based, right? Lying, and giving it all over, right? And following through with the rest of this program. You know, I have 6 siblings. I've met all of them. I was able to 12-step my little brother, who was also adopted. So it's another miracle that that adopted child, this adopted child, managed to get all back together. You know, and I'm really close with that aunt and my uncles, and, you know, here's this whole family. And it's been like, I don't know, 14 years. And we spend holidays together and all celebrations and birthdays and like this whole beautiful family. And I'm so grateful that it happened when I had 5 years, because I had some traditions under my belt. I didn't run into their house with a big book talking about, you're an alcoholic, and you're an alcoholic, and you need a psychic change, and you, because that's what I did for a while in the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was so elated by this way of living. I wanted everybody to have it, and I thought everybody needed it, until I got with some traditions, you know. So it's been an amazing journey, and, you know, 17 years of living this way of life. It's changed radically many different times. But the one thing that doesn't change is the 12 steps. The 12 steps don't change. My home group does not change. And the disease of alcoholism likes to make me think that it changed, but it doesn't change, right? It operates by a formula. And I'm so grateful that I've been taught how to spot my disease coming at me. And beyond me spotting it, because I can't rely on that only, I need a conscious contact. I need a spirit. I need that 6th sense within me that it talks about in 11th step, that rises up and revolts when I'm living in self, or when something is wrong, or when something isn't meant for me, right? The most important thing for me is to be spiritually aligned. I don't do any of it perfectly, right? I fall short. But I just keep saying yes to God, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one assignment at a time. And it's Mother's Day, so I need to say Happy Mother's Day to anybody who's a mother. I became a mother 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. I had a son, and I mean, that's a whole journey in and of itself. And still not a day where I don't have to take inventory. I still have to see myself coming, because I never want anything to get in the way of me being a vessel and a servant to God for that little boy, right? So that he can have a relationship with God, and he could be who God wants him to be. And it's all about me getting me out of the way. The disease of alcoholism, the disease of self, this lie that it has to always be all figured out. And I'm just going to end with saying, you know, on my way over here, I was able to have that moment and that time where I'm just thinking and I'm just free. I don't have the husband in the car. I don't have the baby in the car. It's not very often that I get like a lot of time to myself ever. So I'm just like, yes, it's me and you, God, and I'm praying and I'm driving, you know, and I'm just thinking, right, like life, like this is a collection of experiences. You know, I don't know about anybody else, but I have this bad habit of, I'm so habitual, right? And I want to hold on to everything. I want to hold on to every experience, to every friend, right? And I don't know how to let things go so easily without it being this loss and this grief, right? I don't like to let things go. But my life, like, right, it's a collection of experiences, and there's nothing, like, if I'm supposed to just be in one straight line and look one way, that would be pretty boring, you know, to just do the same thing, or in regards to life, being the same way every single day would be Groundhog's Day, right? But through Alcoholics Anonymous, I get to have a collection of all sorts of different experiences, you know, and then it takes on its own shape, and it's not just a straight line, it's beautiful mix of different lines and crooked lines and whatever it is. It's something that is a work of art, right? And if I don't allow things to just come when they're meant to come and go when they're meant to go, I'll miss out on that work of art, you know? So I don't know, it was just a moment of perspective for me that I'm just so grateful. 17 years I haven't had a desire to drink, and that's what they promised me, that I'd be able to get through life sober without this aching, nagging obsession to drink. My mind would be restored to sanity, my spirit would be restored to wholeness, and I'd be restored to being able to have a relationship with my Creator. And that's exactly what AA has given me, and I'm eternally, eternally grateful. Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share.
Okay, good evening again, everybody. My name's Brian. I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, I want to thank Lindsay for coming here again on her own time and expense to share an incredible message of hope and recovery with the group tonight. The food and the fellowship for this group always starts at 8 o'clock. Feel free to show up early, get involved, hang out with us. If you want to be involved with this group, you want to get involved with some service, you can get with a group member. If you want to help us out with the chairs after the meeting, we got to put away these chairs in the front here and the ones along the side. But more importantly, if you're out there and if you're new or if you're struggling, stay for the meeting. After the meeting, there'll be a whole group of us hanging out. It's usually customary for us to thank our speakers as they come here on their own time and expense, so we usually form a line in the front here. Thank our speakers. Thanks for everybody for greeting. Thanks for everybody being in service of this group. Let's give our speaker one more round of applause. If you do care to join us, we have a nice way of closing.